So, and it's not good for the company. So consistently good, it's something that we want to do. We want to be like that. Now, we're going to go through some algorithms, and I don't have time to go through all of them. We come back and we talk more about it in on Wednesday. We got to start thinking about our final project to start something. We may have 2 final projects, and I give you a bonus one if you want. So maybe we can talk about the issues that we had with the poker game, because I know some people were complaining, some people just gave up on it, but let me tell you this. My first job out of my master's degree was I was a consultant inside the consulting company. So they would have contract with other companies, and when they ran out of people, they would call us to go there. So they would pick us up, send it to Nike one day, and then they would pick us up and send us to some aerospace place or airline place. So even though you might think that if I stay in certain industry or certain area, I'm going to be more comfortable with that, you got to understand that if you're going to put yourself in a pigeonhole, when that job goes away, which I can guarantee you will go away, then you cannot find any other job. You got to think about that. If you get very, very comfortable with what you're doing, think about it that in few years, that job might not be there anymore. In my father's lifetime, people were getting a job and they would stay there for a lifetime. In my time, with the computer science thing, it was happening. You would have changed your job a few times. For you guys, I would say somewhere around 5 years turnaround. So every 5 years, you're going to get a new job. So you got to be ready for the next job while you're working. So those are the things, some advices. I felt like I want to give you some advices today. There's too much caffeine. So I'm going to give you some algorithm. I want you guys pay attention to these things, have it on the site somewhere. So when you want to create a class, you're going to look at this and say, oh, I'm doing it like this, or I'm doing it like this, I'm doing it like this. So the first one that we're talking about is patterns for object data, keeping a total. So if I have a class that I want to keep a total, what do I need to do? If I want to keep a total, what do I need to do? What is the first thing I need to do?
Declare an integer.
We're going to have an instance variable to have it for our total. Okay. So I'm going to create a private double purchase. Now the question is, what methods do we need to help us with this total? So what methods do I need? Now I have this private data. What methods do I need?
Add.
So we need to add. Okay, what else?
We need a getter.
Get.
Get what?
Purchase. Get purchase, yeah. Get
Okay,
purchase amount.
we need to have a way to report it. What else do we need? So I have a total. So I have a way of adding total. I have a way of getting total. There's one more thing left.
Setting.
Setting and the adding, I think it's almost the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing.
We have to have a method to clear your total. So let's say you have a cash register, you're doing the total for a customer. This customer goes, the next customer comes in, you start the total from 0. Okay, what about if I want to have a counting? So I'm going to be counting certain things. So I need the instance variable for the counting, whatever you want to call it. And then what methods do I need over here? So I'm going to be counting something. So let's say it's a cash register. I want to see how many items do you have. So I'm doing the counting on your items. In this case, yeah, item count. So at the end, I can tell you, you have 10 item, 15 item, or whatever. So I'm going to create an instance variable. What methods do I need? Nobody's going to answer?
I think we still need an add and a getter.
What did it say?
I think we still need a setter and a getter. And
So
then,
we need to add, just like the previous one, and we
Yeah.
need to get, what else?
Clear. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's clear. I don't think there's any other things. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next one. We have another, okay, so we talked about counting, we talked about the total, we're talking about collecting values. So if I want to collect the values, that means my object is going to collect other objects. A good example here is a shopping cart that's going to have other objects. So I'm collecting other objects. So the good way of doing it is what? Using the array list to collect objects. So I can create an array list of the object that I want to collect. Whatever object that I have, I need to create it for that one. So I need the instance variable, but my instance variable is going to have empty. My array list is going to have empty. So I got to be sure that inside of my object, when I create the object, somewhere, somehow, I have the new. If I don't put a new, then I don't have the object of array list. And then when I try to add something to my array list, it's going to have a problem. So remember, every time we have a class, we have to create an object before we use it. So we got to be sure that we have this new somewhere in there. And then we're going to be talking about how we're going to be putting this stuff in there. Of course, we're going to create something for adding, and that would be the dot add. So now I have this add method that I am going to receive the object, whatever object I'm talking about. In this case is a string, and it can be potentially other objects. So we're going to be adding this. Now I can call this multiple times, and it's going to add it to my array list that I have it in as an instance variable. So the next algorithm is about managing the property of an object. So in this case, I have a student that has a property of a name. So I want to manage this one. So again, different students are not different classes, they are different object of the same class. Now that I have a name and I want to keep track of it as property of this class, so I'm going to have my regular get and set methods to deal with the property. Okay, so one of the things that we have talked about it, and some of you are still not doing it, is when you receive something, when something is coming into your object, and you are going to be setting, in this case, the property of your class, you want to check it to be sure it is a good data. So I'm going to only update my instance variable if the data that comes in is going to be a good data. It doesn't matter where is it coming from, even though I might have checked it somewhere else. If it's coming in through my mutators, I have to check it to be sure it's a good data. So if I have set name and I'm passing in a new name, what is it that I need to check before I set my name to this new name? What can go wrong? What is this new name can be, what can come to me that's wrong? So I might decide that if it is a null or is an empty string, I'm not going to update the name. So in this case, if you give me an empty string, I'm not going to update my name in there. And another thing that I want to emphasize again and again is we are not going to do any printing over here. Remember, we're going to be taking the scanner out of our class. So we're just going to update it. If you want to return something, I can understand it. But we can always check this one outside too. We're going to update it if we have a good, valid data. We are not going to print any error messages over here. How many people wants to talk to me after the class? Because I have a meeting coming up. How many people want to talk to me after the class? Nida?
Me?
That's one. Only one person? Okay, so remember, when I say the class is over, I only have one student to talk to, that is Nida.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, tell me right now because I have to adjust my time. I have a meeting right after this class. Jonathan, did you want to say something?
No, I was acknowledging what you said.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to get into a little more into this. So we are having a student class that we are managing the property of it. That can be some other stuff in there beside the name. And then we're going to have some. So we said that for a typical one, we're going to have a getter and setter. That means we have a get function and set function. But there's going to be some instances that we should not have any set method. Can you think of instance that I wouldn't have a set method for some properties I would have for a student?
Their ID.
Good. So if I have an ID, then I shouldn't have any set ID because the ID shouldn't be changed. So certain things, remember, constructor is going to happen only one time while we are building an object. And if that constructor is going to set something for us, not necessarily we're going to have a setter to change it. I might even decide that the name cannot be changed. So if I create a student object with a certain last name, I'm not saying this is a good design, I might think about that you cannot change the last name anymore. So then the question is going to come in, what about if I typed in wrong? You told me your last name and I typed it wrong, or you put it wrong. But that's the idea, that certain data, certain instance variables, we might not have the setters for them. So when we are setting up our methods for setters and getters, we have to think about it, that are we going to be changing this one or not? So in this case, the ID is not going to be changed after the constructor. We might have some classes, again, remember these ones, write it down somewhere so you know which one is it. You don't have to memorize them. When you see them, you can come back to them. So we say, okay, this matches up with this algorithm, with this way of doing the classes. So this one is talking about the state. So we might have different state of, do you guys see the bar for my editing bar? So I just moved it up. What do you see the first thing in my screen on top? What is the first thing on the top you see in my screen right now?
We don't see anything besides the slide that you have.
Yeah, what is the first thing you see on the top?
It says problem solving patterns.
Okay,
for
okay,
algebra.
good. Thank you. So my ribbon doesn't overlap with the reading. Okay, so we're going to be checking the state. So that means if I create an object for certain classes, they might go through some stages. They might be their state might be different in different time or location. So an example here would be about a fish that can be hungry or not hungry. So if it's hungry, it's going to be looking for food. If it's not hungry, it's going to go to sleep. So we're going to keep track of the state, and that the state can change depending to certain thing that happens with this object. So what are the distinct states for the following objects? So for a student, what do you see as a state for the student?
Grades.
Oh, I'm talking about the state of it, not the recording of a grade. So a student can be active or inactive, or the things in that matter. What about the faculty? Same thing can be to do with the faculty. The faculty is inactive, so right now this faculty is not teaching anymore. A person can do what? What state can be a person? What about
Asleep
the
and not
class in
asleep.
college? Go ahead.
Asleep and not asleep.
Asleep, not asleep, married, unmarried. Yeah, you can have different states for that. The classroom is a large classroom, a small classroom, or you can have multiple states with some of these things. So in that case, we will create some static variable, because these static variables are going to be shared among all the objects. So the reason we do this, we don't want to use 0, 1, or 2. We want to use not hungry, somewhat hungry, very hungry. So we're going to create these things. So throughout the class, when we're writing per code, we don't say if the state is equal 0, 1, 2. We're going to say if the state is not hungry or very hungry and those kind of things. So we are going to create this public static final. It's called public because not only the objects of the same class can use it, the object of other classes can use these things. It's a static, meaning that if I create 50 objects, they're going to have only one of these. It's final, that means nobody can change it, it's constant, and the data type is int. I will stop over here to have enough time for Nika. I mean, not Nika, Nida. So we have a couple of more things to go over, and be ready to go over some of these things on Wednesday, and take a look at your.
You said Wednesday?
I mean, no, you're not. I don't see you guys Wednesday. Friday.
Friday. Yeah, Friday.
And you guys said the best way to deal with you guys is to have quizzes on a Friday, right? That's the only way I can get you guys involved. Is that true?
We can try it out.
Well, we're going to try that. So we're going to have a quiz on Friday starting at 9:45. And then we can move on. About the things that we did, about your homework, about your lab, mainly about the reading material. Till you guys change it. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to be talking to Nida in a private room